Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're here doing what we do in a way that only we can do it, keeping you locked in on your dial as you're driving into work, enjoying yourself, and setting you on the right tone for the day, baby. Yeah.
I know this, though. People are going to wonder why Maurice Allen is on a real estate podcast. And it's because it's a we see you. Right? We want to talk about relatability.
Okay.
And one thing that stood out to me that I think I want to tell the viewers first, whoever is going to watch this, I'm going to assume you're going to bring in most of the viewers for this, but we'll see. One thing that really stood out when I met you, we played golf. You had a mentee that was with you, and he was talking about some sponsorship, right? Shout out to the sponsors right here. And one thing I saw...
hydrated.
Here you go. One thing that I saw with you was you were teaching him how to show his value, not just ask for money or like, hey, I'm the athlete here, pay me and I'll put your logo on me. You were trying to explain to him the other side of that, the business side, and that really stood out to me. And that's something relatable for us too in real estate. Is we've got to prove our value. There's a million realtors. Why Wheatley Realty Group, right?
Yeah, I guess the big thing is how do you set yourself apart in today's world where we're really find ourselves in a very narcissistic society, which is hilarious because social media is the great equalizer. It's something that allows people to come together, which is great, but it's also the one thing that kills humanity at the same time. If someone's taught early, take selfies, do all this stuff in the camera, look at me, then how do you ever expect that person to give? How do you ever expect that person to be of service? So what you'll find out is, even with you guys, I think that's the thing that could separate you from any other realty group out there is the personal attention, not after close.
I think you're saying the word that I wanted to hit on, which was ego.
Yeah.
It really strokes that ego, the social media, the recognition, the more likes, the more followers, and then that ego becomes your identity, right?
Yeah, well, partially, right? I think for some people it does, but I think that's when people don't have value. If you know who you are, so for instance, people will look at Wheatley Realty and say, all right, well, what makes you better than 6, 7 other companies? And without it being an egotistical statement, your answer should be me, and your realtors, they should say me. Well, that's very cocky. And be like, no, The difference between those other groups and our group are the people that are within our group, and each person is a unique individual, and what they bring to the table is something that no one else brings. So those are the things that make you all different. Those are the things that make you all special. And it's not saying that necessarily you're better than anyone else. It's we are who we are, and we know what we bring, and that's the thing that sets us apart.
Providing the value, yeah, like you said, and it's such a fine line to walk down the. My business itself is all awards, recognition, ego. It's a high failure rate business. Is golf a high failure rate business?
Every time. You gotta be kidding me. I don't know anybody who holds it out from the fairway every time, or someone who makes every putt. It just doesn't happen. You learn how to adjust to the misses. It's very similar to what you would see in any other form of life. How do you adapt to things going wrong? It's not about. Everybody has a plan. Mike Tyson always said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And every day, everyone wakes up. You got a plan. Your plan was, all right, I'm going to wake up at this time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You and I, all right, we've got a plan. We're going to go work out. And some mornings you get there and you'll beat the plan. And more often than not, the plan will beat you.
Oh, that's
like,
true.
Man, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to rep 225 today. The body's like, nah, I don't think we're going to do that today. So you end up with those types of things. And it's all about how do you adjust. Do you give up? Do you find a way to get better? Do you find a way to really just deal with what's in front of you and then try to go a different way? But I think the easiest way that I can explain to people is every day that you're alive, you lose. You lose. You lose the opportunities that were there that day.
Time.
They will never come back. Time will always continue to move forward. And if you don't have the courage and the guts to really capitalize on what's in front of you, then you'll always lose.
So you don't use that as a negative statement in the fact that, because I see people that take mindset stuff very differently, right? And it depends what your perspective is, right? You can say one thing and someone's not ready to hear it, and you can say it to somebody else and it changes their life. But it's the same statement.
It's the same thing, right? Perception is reality, unfortunately. But I think the issue is everybody lives in this good vibes only world. And
it's not true.
It is like giving participation ribbons. If you live in a good vibes only world, you are the kid who wants a participation ribbon. I think learning how to deal with failure is the best thing. I mean, when you start this,
it's the best teacher. That's for sure.
How much failure did you have starting this business?
Man, my story's you know what? It's not so much. I don't view it as failure. I view it as learning. But that's just from a mindset shift, right? But at first. The first failure I have was, my intention was to take over my mom's company in 2013. I've been working for some 9-to-5s in the auto industry, and I was like, you know what? My ceiling's pretty low. Let's go do real estate. Ceiling's pretty high. It's high failure rate, high risk, high reward, right? And I just stuck it through, and a month and a half in, my mom sold her business. This was planned. She had it for sale, but it ended up getting sold. She didn't think she could sell it. That's why I was going to take it over. But when everyone looks at my business right now, they're always like, oh, well, you know, you got it handed to you. And I was like, no. I got the legs chopped from underneath me like month 1, right? And I had to figure it out. So that was the big failure I had. But it also pushed me out of my comfort zone to learn all the new things I needed to learn, to set up an LLC, to do the business side. So I view it as a blessing. Right. But a lot of times when people are in those storms, it's really hard to see.
Yeah. So the thing I would tell you is the worst thing that happens to you is always the best thing that happens to you. And if people start looking at it that way, stop looking at things as a negative and really start looking at them for what they are, it's more preparation than anything. Like, remember when you were a kid, right? You play baseball, you play football, especially baseball. Football, you can kind of get away with it. But if you're a baseball kid, you know, you've got a game this afternoon, and you see it raining. You know they're never going to play a baseball game in the rain. It's never going to happen. Football,
maybe.
As long as it's not lightning, everything's going. And you get there and you get really, really sad. You're really, really frustrated. This was everything. I wanted to play today. Well, that same thing happens if you look at it that same exact day through another person's lens. If I'm an adult, if I'm your parent, and it's raining that day, man, we've been in a drought. The yard looks terrible. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and so just because it's something bad that's happening to you doesn't mean that it's not something good for someone else. It just means that it's not your moment in time for it to really shine for you. And if you learn how to adjust to that, same thing on the golf course. If, you know, you hit the ball and you hit it in a place where you didn't intend to hit it, or that's not what you were trying to do, it wasn't your goal, you know, do you find a way to keep your head rather than losing it? And if you can do that and then start finding another perspective and say, okay, well, I'm over here in the rough or I'm over in the trees. I've got a shot that I don't like or that I don't know. All right, you know what? I'm going to learn something out of this. And in the midst of me learning this, I'm not going to be too aggressive. I'm not going to take a lot of stuff into play that I shouldn't. But this is an opportunity for me to grow. Yeah. And if you look at it that way, it changes everything.
I think one of the people I follow, Kerwin Ray, who got me into the business mindset of like not chasing money, helping people, providing value. He was big in the, you know, whenever you're confused or frustrated, just view it as an opportunity to learn something new because your body doesn't know how to do it yet. Yeah. Right? So that's exactly how it should be. Yeah. How it should be seen. And if you can shift your mindset to, again, you just mentioned a bunch of things like being humble, humility, things like that can get you through like, hey, it's not my time yet, but it's coming. Or I can celebrate this time for them. They're happy. They're doing good. All that.
We just talked about a narcissistic society. You want to tell me we want to be happy for someone else? Go for it. Let me know how that works out.
Yeah. I mean, I try to. I try to be, I mean, I know I'm aware that I'm a sometimes delusional optimist. But again, from my upbringing.
You and I have had that conversation many times.
We have.
I would tell you, it's crazy when you really sit down and think about it. I look at my career, and the best example I give people is Outkast. Right. If you look at Outkast, you know, they came out in 96, 95, 94, somewhere in that. And they kept doing this. They kept riding the wave. You know, think about how many artists have come, how many artists have gone, how many artists are only doing greatest hits
Right.
at this point. They're not coming out with new music, or if they are coming out with good new music, no one buys it except for the diehard fans, right?
Right.
And I mean, we're talking about, I think it was 8 months ago at this point. No one had heard from Andre 3000 in Jesus knows how long. And he drops a verse with Kanye West, and it was the most vulnerable, real thing I had heard. But it just shows that he kept evolving with the time. And I think if people really look at life as a wave and say, okay, there are going to be peaks, there's going to be valleys. And I might be at a peak right now. You know, for instance, with me, Long Drive. Okay. You know, I had a very, very good run with Long Drive, and now maybe it's someone else's turn to do that. Right. Does that mean that I won't have another peak in something else? It could be speaking. It could be...
You're very good at speaking, I'll tell you that much.
It could be stroke play. It could be, you know, diversity and inclusion seminars. It could be so many different things. And if I only live my life saying, man, this is what my claim to fame was, this is
your
what
identity,
I did, then I'll never know what I truly am as a human being, because I'm putting a ceiling on myself. You know,
you see like that all the time with athletes, right? You see all, like, it's there, they do it until they were forced to retire or injury or something, and it's like it can almost like just crumble away. Your entire identity's gone. I mean, how many shows do you see that person's retiring, they don't know what to do with themselves anymore, leaving yourself open to the new experiences or avenues that you could go down that might be you thought you hit your peak, and maybe it's in front of you. You know what I mean?
That's scary.
In a different area. It's scary, sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, who wants to be scared? I mean, I'm not, it sounds so simple when you say it that way, but legitimately, who wants to be scared? Who wants to put themselves in an uncomfortable position?
Being vulnerable to get hurt, all that stuff,
Well, it's more so about a shift in power. It has nothing to do with getting hurt. It has everything to do with
letting go.
I don't know what's next. Everybody wants to be in control. Everybody wants to say, all right, this is going to go the way how I want it to go. If you look at it that way, no one would ever accomplish anything great.
But don't you get taught that hard lesson in golf over and over and over again?
I think you get taught that hard lesson in life early, depending on who your parents are or depending on the competition that you have. You know, like when I was in school, I was not even close to the best athlete. I just learned early that I had a little bit of talent and I had to work really, 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 really hard to compete. And so I learned that early. I was aware of that early, and that's what got me to all the different things. I mean, I could name 150 people easily that had far more talent than I've ever had. I mean, even if I look in the sport of long drive, I wasn't the most talented guy. I just outworked people and I found a way to win. You know, one of the guys was asking me literally just a couple of weeks ago. He was like, how is it that you continuously get stronger as the day goes on when everyone else is fading? I'm like, because I trained for that. So the longer I went into a competition, the better it was for me, because I knew that I wasn't going to fade fast. And if you look at track and field, that's where I learned that. So the 100-meter sprint is who slows down the slowest. Everybody thinks that the 100 is who runs the fastest.
Right.
Not at all. It's who slows down the slowest, because once you get to 60 meters, that's all you got.
Yeah.
You don't have anything else left in your body. It is, you're done. You're not getting any faster.
It also is where you see people pull away, right? You do see people, they're all pretty close in the beginning, reaction time and stuff. Yeah. But then you start to see, obviously, the Usain Bolt. He would always he just never slowed down.
Just never slowed down. He never got any faster through that tape.
Right.
But he just didn't slow down when everyone else was slowing down. And that's how you have to kind of look at, if you look at life, it's the same way. You know, in your 20s or high school, you graduate from high school, everybody's out the gate. Oh, I got to go get money. I got to go do this. And I mean, today's world's all materialistic. So let's go back from when we were in high school. Okay. And so it's like, oh, okay, I got to go get the job. Oh, I want to have an identity. Oh, I want to do this. I want to travel.
Career,
I want to do that. And everybody's out the gate. They're running. Well, you got somebody who's sitting there, and the separation really happens with, okay, well, I've got a 401k. I've got my retirement set up. I've got investments. I've got all this other stuff. So then when the person gets to their late 50s, their 60s, you start to see that pull away when you have this guy and this lady who, they stuck it out as a family. They didn't do too much crazy stuff. And now you see them and they're going on 3-week trips and they're buying these exotic cars and they're doing this house. And they're like, everybody's like, what happened? They just didn't slow down.
Yeah.
And
that's gonna get interesting with social media, since it is only 10 to 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And nobody's got to that point yet in life. So that's gonna be a weird transition to see, so and so is 50 or 60 now and they're living their best life. They've got a yacht, they've got, a house in the Bahamas, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
That's not even happened yet, because the 50 and 60-year-olds I know, most of them aren't on social media, and if they are,
it's for pictures of kids. They're not the quote-unquote social media influencers. And so the way I look at those people, even if you look at the shift in people who come and go in social media, like there's this guy who, Dan Rue, Dancing Dan, right? Mm-hmm. He was pretty big about 2.5, 3 years ago, because we used to laugh about him. And now he doesn't exist. So in social media, you have what we would consider the one-hit wonders in music, right? So they go out there and they make their money, and then we go back and laugh and be like, "Man, this dude was #1 on the charts. Now he's working in the cubicle." Mm-hmm. Like, how does that affect your ego? How are you how are you able to live life from that? Because you have this thought and this standard of where you feel you're supposed to be versus where you are. And I think that was probably the coolest thing about the guy from the Cosby Show, Elvin, who was like this actor. And then he was working in the grocery store and everybody was like, oh, I can't believe he's like, I got to feed my family, man. Like, the Cosby Show has been off. Obviously, everything had to be billed. So syndication was
it doesn't mean the lessons you learn from it aren't valid, though, right? I mean, we're in the show. I mean, that's, to me, to see someone, I mean, you hear all the podcasts, and, Joe Rogan has his famous quote with the, I'd love to see a guy fall down and get back up story. I don't, like, the guy that just makes it, everyone, that's a cool story, but they don't write films about those. It's always the one that goes through the struggle. And I know you didn't have the easiest start to everything. So how did you get into golf?
How did I get into golf? My dad tried to get me to play golf as a kid.
Okay.
And honestly, you didn't get any girls playing golf, so that wasn't going to happen for me. I had no interest in golf. And then eventually one of my friends bet me I wasn't athletic enough to hit a golf ball, and it kind of went from there.
So the long drive, Maurice Allen, the champion from, hold on, what year was it? 17?
18.
2018? Started with, I bet you can't hit this ball. And you just went up there and smacked it.
It was weird, man. It was kind of like the show Jackass, honestly. Like, we used to just do all kinds of stupid stuff. Like, he would, at that point I was running track, and he was like, well, I bet you can't run into a moving car. I was like, I can run into a moving car, trust me. And he was like, all right, I'll put the car at about 20 miles an hour. Let's see if you can run fast enough to run into the car while it's moving. I was like,
oh, to catch it up?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The door was open and it was like, hop in.
Oh, gotcha.
That could go terribly wrong. I could have got ran over. Looking at it now, youth was definitely on my side, because at this age, I'm just like,
there's no way you could do that, right, and recover from it.
It's not that. It's more like, well, what do I have planned for the rest of the week? So if I pull a hammy, how long am I out? If I get ran over by the car, what's this going to do to the insurance? This actually isn't a good idea. So, but it was all kinds of stuff like that. And we played rec league softball together, and he owned a golf store, and we just ended up doing that. And it was actually pretty cool, but I was open to the possibility of where it could take me, and it's taken me where we are now.
Yeah, no kidding. Which is the 2018 Long Drive Champion.
Yeah.
And then you've had, so after that, what led up to that? Like, did you start trying to play stroke play? Did you just like, hey, I love hitting the ball real hard because I played softball, baseball, that kind of stuff? Or
nah, man.
Because long drive wasn't. It's not like sexy. It's not like I want to be a pro long driver.
No,
it's getting
actually,
there.
No, it still isn't. It's okay. It's not. No, honestly, I was at Florida A&M. I graduated that spring, so my first competition I think was 3 or 4 weeks before my graduation. So I had never even heard of it.
You went to college though on a
track and field scholarship.
Okay, track and field.
Definitely not golf. No.
Okay.
And so from there, I remember I ended up going to Life University, which is a chiropractic school in Marietta, Georgia, and they had this program. It was weird. They were transitioning. So they were NAIA school. And if you know anything about NAIA schools, there are no rules. Absolutely, there are no rules. Like, that's the one where you've seen stories where a guy was like 55 years old and playing college football. It's NAIA.
Okay.
So NAIA is where you can get some real interesting stuff going on. And Life was trying to start their sports program, and the athletic director was this guy named Coach Barrett. And I was playing I was intramural softball with him. I got up there and he was like, "Hey, I heard you went to this long drive competition, blah, blah." And he started talking. I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that no more, man." He was like, "Why?" I was like, "It's expensive. I'm a college student, man. I'm just here to get my education. I'm not here to play any sports. I just want to just do my thing." And he was like, "Well, what if the school paid for it?" It's like, how does that happen? Well,
Like, why would the school pay for it?
right.
Number one, right?
And for him, he was a genius, though. He was thinking publicity. Mm-hmm. And so they had an athletic fund, and they had donors, and they could do stuff because it's not NCAA. They could do all kinds of weird stuff. And so they paid for me to go to competitions, and I ended up breaking world records and all this other stuff. And it's being published all over the place, which is great for their sports program, right? So that ends up happening. And I stopped going to class, which I didn't know was a thing. I was working on my doctorate, and I'm thinking, post undergrad, you go to class when you want to go to class, as long as your grades are good. Yeah, nah, not there. Attendance was mandatory.
No rules, but they do have attendance rules.
They do have. So there are no rules on the athletic side, but on the academic side, there were very strict rules.
Okay.
And so you had to go to class. I was like, oh, so I got kicked out of school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had this program there with a driving range down the street where you'll appreciate this. For $100 a year, you got to hit unlimited range balls. So I stopped going to class. I was like, yo, I'm going to learn this golf thing. And at that time, no one did it professionally. I think there was one person, Jamie Sidlowski, who was the only person making a living doing it. And I was like, man, I remember talking to my roommate because I lived on campus, and that was a part of my scholarship for that. It was like, I'm too big for this room. And I love my room. I love Dre to death. Dre was like, man, well, we can get a bigger place, right? Yeah, this place is kind of small. I was like, nah, man, you're not hearing me. I'm too big for this room. Nah, I don't get what you're saying. And I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. And, I end up getting called to the chancellor's office, chancellor. And he was like, yeah, since you're not going to school, I got to kick you out of school. And so I'm on the scholarship. I'm living on campus. And it didn't dawn on me until after I walked out of his office. I was like, yo, I'm homeless, my man. Like, I don't have a place to live because if I'm kicked out of school, I'm kicked out the dorm. And he was like, yeah, but I need you to come back at 3:00 and bring your golf schedule with you. Bring all your stuff. I just need to talk to you about some stuff. I need to plan what you're going to do next. And I'm sitting there like, man, I come back at 3:00. I'm burning this damn thing to the ground. You gotta be kidding me. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to explain to my parents that I literally didn't do what I was supposed to do, which was go to class. Forget the grades part. I didn't go to class, and I got kicked out of school for merely just not going to class. So I go back, and it was the coolest thing ever. He literally put the rest of my season on his black card, sitting right there. Like how you and I are sitting here. He literally bought a ticket to Sweden, to Spain, to Italy, back to Sweden. I was in like 10 events here.
This is the same guy that
literally
got a chance to you the first time?
The guy who kicked me out of class, the chancellor, his name's Guy Reekman. He was like, I know I'm kicking you out of school, but here's a way for you to make money. If you're as good as, he's like, if you're as good as they say you are, all you need is a start. I was like, all right. And so I packed all my stuff up. I had enough money to get a storage unit. So I put my stuff in the storage unit, and then I slept in my car for 3 months. I slept in the parking garage on that campus on the top floor. I slept in the Walmart parking lot. I slept on some of my friends' couches here and there when I just couldn't sleep in the car anymore. And I remember I slept on my cousin's couch, and he had a dog that peed on the couch all the time. It was very weird. And I remember I woke up one night.
You had to sleep in it?
Yeah. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, yo, my man, you sleeping in pee right now, right? Like, for real. Like, has life gotten this bad where you're literally sleeping in pee? This is what it's come down to. And
I should have just gone to class.
But I remember I didn't have money for food. It got to a point where I didn't have money for gas. I would walk to the driving range from my car is on campus. People would still see me on campus walking from campus. They're like, oh, what is he doing up here? And it was because I was sleeping in the garage, or I'd sleep at Walmart down the street. And when I went to certain people that asked me to come and work these charity golf tournaments, stand there hitting balls. And I remember I made like $500 one day. I got a hotel. I was like, oh my God, I got a bed. It wasn't even a good hotel. It was like a.
It wasn't a dog pee couch.
It was not a dog
and it
pee
wasn't
couch.
a car.
It wasn't the car. And I remember I used to grab the lunches or the breakfast because Chick-fil-A sponsors everything in Atlanta. So
right.
I grabbed. That's why I really don't eat the Chick-fil-A
But not on
sandwich.
Sundays.
Yeah, that's why I don't eat the Chick-fil-A sandwich to this day, man. Because I remember
you just lived off of that, huh?
I grab them and I stuff them in my car.
Is that the secret to the long drive for Zeke?
I guess
Chick-fil-A
so.
chicken.
And it was crazy, but I honestly look at that now, and that was one of the big things that changed my life. It was the worst thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
But it was the best thing that could have happened to me. And I could have, and people are like, oh, well, your parents were well off. I was like, yeah, but the truth of the matter was, I could have called my parents, truthfully. Neither one of my parents knew I was sleeping in my car. My stepfather knew I was sleeping in my car, and he knew on accident. And I told him, I was like, man, you really can't tell my mom this for real. And he was like, all right. And my viewpoint on it was simple. If I had been doing what we had agreed on for me to do, which was go to school, go to class, get an education, I wouldn't have been in that situation. I decided to do what I wanted to do. And so as a grown man, I got myself in a grown man situation, and I had to get myself out of it as a grown man. So going to my parents and asking them to help me wasn't going to actually help me. It wasn't going to make me see how much trouble I was in. And even sleeping in my car didn't do it, all this other stuff. It was literally sleeping in dog pee when I realized how bad my life was at that point. But it also made me work harder. And so it
pushed you out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody that's comfortable sleeping in dog pee. I mean, try it tonight, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got a pet, just let your furry friend just pee all over your comforter and sleep in that, and let me know how it smells tomorrow morning when you wake up. It's not a good feeling.
No, it's not a good feeling. No. But it's cool. Reflection is awesome. It's a good part of the journey because you can appreciate. And then, obviously, I'm sure we all have rough patches coming up and storms to appreciate what we're supposed to learn from that.
Yeah.
You said something earlier, too, about where you want to be and where you actually are. Mm-hmm. And I love, there's a quote from Peter Crone that says, your suffering is the distance between where you want to be and where reality is. Mm-hmm. So if you, however much difference you want your life to be, that's the amount of suffering you're going to have. One way or the other. Right. It doesn't have to be good or bad. Also, when you were talking earlier about everything isn't just good vibes only. I mean, you physically cannot have good without bad. Yeah. So you just have to learn how to appreciate both. You can learn all the stuff you just said while you're in it. Bad. Turned into good.
But even then, it was good because I was doing what I wanted to do.
Right.
I was learning. I was getting better every day at my craft. So it was actually still good.
You accepted the responsibility, which is another, accountability and responsibility are two things that I feel are fading pretty quick.
Oh, yeah, because everything's positive only. Oh, right. That happened. It's not my fault. So I'll do something funny with you, which is a great exercise I do with people when I'm around them. So let's think back to the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right, you got it?
Are we going work, personal, just the whole last 2 weeks?
The whole last 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right, cool. How many bad moments or disappointing moments or things that didn't go your way in the last 2 weeks?
Oh, boy. Because you're asking me the last 2 weeks and it was the end of the month, we had at least a couple closings delayed because we've got a lot of issues with lenders. So a lot of hard conversations.
So a lot of adversity. Clients. We won't say bad. We'll just use the word adversity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you came in with you've had a lot of adversity in the last 2 weeks. Sweet. Awesome.
Mostly work wise, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Mm-hmm. All right. So think back a month. How much adversity? That you can actually pinpoint to a T, this is what happened, the actual event.
A couple more.
Okay, cool. Go back 6 months.
Specifically pinpoint them. I mean, I know there's going to be more, but it starts to fade.
Go back a year. Same.
Yeah.
5 years. Okay. Now, 10 years minus a death of someone close to you. Can't use death.
As far as adversity goes,
Mm-hmm.
I just shared one with you.
Yeah.
The losing the business.
Right.
And,
so one.
Well, I mean, as far as adversity wise, yeah, I mean, the events get larger, yes, as you go back, yeah.
So the point that I'm making to you is something I learned in chiropractic school. We'll play another one, and then I'll bring it back to you.
Okay.
Have you ever broken the bone?
No.
Ever pulled a muscle, tore something?
ACL, yeah.
Okay, so when did you tear your ACL?
2 years ago.
Oh, you're an adult. This is even better. Sweet.
Yeah.
How bad did it hurt?
At the time, it was more shock.
Okay. But can you remember how bad it hurt?
Yes.
I bet you can't.
Okay.
You
Are we
know-
betting push-ups again? Because this is the Maurice Allen thing, right?
So you know that you were in pain. You know that you were in
Oh, yeah.
discomfort.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But could you quantify how much pain you were in?
You mean like on a 1 to 10 scale?
You can try that if you want.
No, it was more shock than anything.
Okay. So
Like actual physical pain, it wasn't. It was bad, but it wasn't that bad.
Okay. So here's the thing. The body actually has no way to recall pain.
Okay.
There's nothing. You can know that you were in pain.
Mm-hmm.
You can know that it hurt. But if you actually had to say how much it hurt,
You can't actually put a number on it.
you can't do it. It's impossible. Because think about it this way. The body's always trying to adapt. The body's always receptive to things. And if it has a way of consistently remembering those things, it'll keep you from pushing forward.
The body is
It's the
a mystery.
supercomputer. It's
It
the
is.
supercomputer, right?
It sure is.
So you bring that into the context of what you're talking about with good days, bad days, and this whole positive vibes only thing. The funniest part about that is the things that are a 10 today will be a 1 in 6 months.
Yeah.
They probably won't even exist to you in a year. And in 5 years, they'll be obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
So the struggles that you think you're going through today, a breakup, a breakup, not a divorce.
Right.
Divorce things like that, because that's
They
like
can linger longer, yeah.
Well, that's like a death, right? So
Right.
you take a death completely out of it, and with the exception of a death or something horribly catastrophic, which I would say 9/11, but that's death, right?
Right. A lot
So
of
if you can take those things away, outside of that, the days that you think are so terrible won't even matter when you look at them in the grand scheme of life.
yeah.
Now let's go on the opposite side. Positively.
Right.
What do you remember from 3 months ago?
That was positive.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a little bit less than I would remember the negative, but that's kind of human nature, right? We're attracted to
No,
the
it's
negative.
positive vibes only. So no, that shouldn't happen.
That's
But
true.
right.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, you remember less.
Mhm.
But here's the crazier part. 10 years.
Good things.
You'll always remember more in the long run.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of like a backward scale,
Yeah.
right? You
So-
remember more of the bad things that are recent and more of the good things that are further away. That's interesting. I like that. I like that a lot.
There you go.
Yeah.
You
I
learned
like it.
something in the podcast.
Every time I'm with you, I learn something. That's for sure.
Brought something different to you. So it's funny. And even though the crazier part is the shift of where something bad in the immediate memory bank actually turns into something positive much later.
I'm a big believer that not everything in life happens for a reason. I mean, that's a tough one when you're talking about death or divorce or things like that to go through at the time.
No, it's not. It actually is, because everything does happen for a reason. There's a growth. There's something. I mean,
But it's tough to tell someone in that time, like you can't go up to someone who just lost someone. It's like, it's okay, everything happened for a reason. Obviously, timing is important with that.
I would say if someone just lost someone, everything happens for a reason. Not meaning the fact that that person's gone is for a reason, but there was a reason for that person being here.
Right.
And so that was the reason. You
Right.
know, everything, you were supposed to learn something. That person was supposed to have an effect on your life. Not, oh man, they gone. You know, it happens for a reason. No, I wouldn't say that.
Delivery is key, for
Delivery is
sure.
key on that one. Yeah, but you know, everything does happen for a reason, whether people like it or not. Even divorce happens for a reason.
Oh,
And
yeah.
sometimes it's the worst thing that can happen to you, but it ends up being
At the
the
time.
best thing that could ever happen to you.
I know. I truly agree with that like I said, everything happens for a reason. There's usually a lesson in there. A lot of times, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like if you're struggling with something and you're trying to get past it, life will keep presenting you with circumstances that you have to deal with it until you're past it.
Yeah.
And I think the awareness of that is the first step to getting better, if you know what I mean. It's confusing, it's frustrating, but again, you're learning something new and you're getting to the next level. You can't have the life you want doing the same things you do every day.
No, it's not possible.
You can't.
No, you can't change. That's stagnant. It's like when people say, I'm looking for balance. You know that balance in life doesn't exist, right?
Right.
It doesn't, because balance is a state of something being stagnant.
And just still, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're still, that means you're what?
Not going anywhere. You're not
you're
moving.
Dead.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You're dead. You cannot be moving, but nothing in your body is still. Like, if you look in,
water, everything. Yeah.
I mean, if I put ink into a glass of water, that water in that glass looks like it's still, but the molecules are always moving. They're always moving. So you'll start to see things kind of diffuse out over time, right? And so that should show you that nothing that is moving can have balance. It can have range.
You're always going. Yes, that's a good point, because we're always teaching. We're a very emotional business, right? It's an emotional roller coaster buying a house. It all depends on, or selling a house.
It wasn't for me.
Well, there you go. That's good. But it can be, right? You can go from, there's a lot of things we can't control. So lenders, title companies, appraisers, all that kind of stuff.
People not telling the truth on the applications.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but we can control that. Oh, my God, tell the truth. Go ahead.
Exactly. So we have a theory where we try to stay neutral. It's not balanced, but you're trying to make those big peaks and valleys as close to neutral as possible, so you're not making emotional charged decisions, or buyers and sellers aren't punching each other at walkthroughs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when it's high tense, we try to keep it like that. But you're right, you can never have. There's no like one balanced transaction that just goes through smoothly. Quickest way from point A to B, wanting to buy a house and buying a house is a straight line. Never happens.
No, there's always stuff, and so that's
But that's the beauty of it, right? We're always fighting for as close to balance or as close to neutral as we can get. But actually achieving that is death.
The
like you
reason
said.
why that happens is because you all have seen so many things and you've learned from things, and you found the parallels between case by case and home by home, buyer by buyer, seller by seller. And so when you're dealing with that, you start to see some closeness in personalities.
Right.
And so you're like, all right, I'm not going to assume, but I think this is what's going to happen next. Or, hey, this is, and there's all those things that go into it. But, it's just a part of the growth process.
One thing I want to talk to you about before we wrap up, because I know you're passionate about it. And for me, it's interesting because you have a completely different perspective on life based off what you've been through. And I'm always searching for like relatability, but there's one thing I cannot relate to.
Okay.
And that's skin color, right? Like what you've been through because of how you were genetically made up versus me. I know you're passionate about it. I really respect how you talk about it, because it's not, even though it can come across negative, positive, whatever, it's very educational, and it's very, it's from a point of, I want you just to see my side. I mean, our podcast is We See You, right? So I feel like it'd be an injustice not to talk about that right now.
Okay. I mean, what's the questions? I love these topics.
Being completely transparent from someone in my position that wants to know what the right things are to do, to be aware of, to be open-minded. It seems like there's a very big polarizing political and racial things that happen, and it's like you're one side or the other. And it doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I don't believe that people are one side or the other.
But they're trying to force people to be one side or another, right?
I think that it's weird. If you're following truth, there's truth on both sides. So you'd actually be on the one side on the other thing, on the other side on the other side. You know what I mean? So you do like, here we go with the wave.
Yeah, the roller coaster.
We're riding the wave. And so it's weird. I was watching, I'm really into documentaries. I love watching documentaries because I like to see the parallel between people from different genres and people from different arenas and
time frames too, right? That makes a huge difference.
No, it's all the same.
Oh, okay.
It's funny. It's like there's a saying: the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Yes,
and that's it. It doesn't move. It doesn't shift. Like, I remember hearing this quote. It was crazy. This lady was like, "You're only a good person because life has afforded you to be that."
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, huh? That doesn't
Yeah.
even make sense. Well, so if you look at it, and I always try to get people, because people try to understand that, when you look on the news, or especially when I was growing up, it was always called crime hills, which I absolutely hate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I couldn't understand it because I grew
And
up,
from the viewers that don't know what that is,
right. Pine Hills was always referred
Right.
to as crime hills, and
which you're born
which
and
is-
raised there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, it was never bad when I lived there. And sometimes, sometimes if you're so close to a situation, you look at it and you're like, oh, well, maybe, or I just wasn't in that group. And
Right.
the truth of the matter is, it wasn't a bad area. It wasn't the land of opportunity. It wasn't the land of promise, and I understand that. But it was literally people just trying to make a living and survive.
Right.
And so that key word, I think, is the one difference from when people talk about race, why there is no relatability. From the time most minorities are born, they're always taught to survive,
Not to live.
not to
Like,
thrive,
live their life. Yeah.
not to live. Abundance does not exist in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
When I look at a lot of my friends, like yourself or any other white person I know, they always tell their kids, go do what makes you happy. What makes you happy?
Right.
What makes you
Right.
happy?
No, it's very true. Yeah.
Not with us. Hey, man, you need to go get a good job where you're going to make this money. And it doesn't matter if it makes you happy or not. And so that brings a different level of struggle.
Sure.
If you're doing something that you hate, you absolutely hate, and you could be making money, and people I think the weirdest part of it all is the circle, right? So I know a lot of people who have a lot of money and they've had a lot of influence and a lot of power and all this other stuff. The one thing that all of those people have in common is they don't have love. Real love, like true love. Not, hey, I'm the 50-year-old guy with the 20-year-old wife that really doesn't love me, but
that loves
she
your
loves
wallet.
my money, right?
Exactly.
And then the other thing is, I look at people who don't have a lot of money, who are, for lack of a better word, struggling in life, but all they're surrounded by is love.
Abundance of love. Yeah.
Right. But
it brings people together, right? It's like we all need to be there for each other. And
right. But the issue is, we need to be there for each other, but we don't have anything. So how can we really be there for each other with nothing? And so there's this constant shift and circle. The people who don't have money are trying to get money. The people who have money are trying to get love, and it just keeps going round and round and round and round and round.
Again, trying to search for that balance that just
doesn't
exist.
And so you try to find this range in the middle where you have just enough of both, and it changes things. It's kind of like the term African American that is consistently used and thrown around. If I look at it, and most black people that I know, and especially in today's world, that term doesn't make sense because there's so many. A bunch of my friends are like African immigrants. Their parents actually, like my friend in Tingle, he's from Zambia. And so now he's a citizen here, which would actually make him an African American versus my family.
American.
Right. Yeah, my family's from the islands, and I think like the difference is people who were born here, people who were, 4th, 5th generation, they might be Black Americans, but they're not African Americans because the phrase African American shows a disassociation of being American.
Yeah,
if you really think about it,
it's true. Yeah,
so
that'd be like me being an English American.
Yeah, and so
I immigrated here, so I mean,
right. And so when you look at white Americans, they're just Americans.
And if I got upset about you not calling me an English American, that it would just be strange.
Yeah,
and it's like the politically correct.
Right.
Things.
And so we've gotten to this point where it's all about box checking, and people are doing a lot of box checking to make sales, and that part sucks.
It does. It does.
It's a bold statement to make, but because I wasn't alive.
But it's you.
Right.
That's who you are. So you better make it.
I think it might have been better in the 50s and 60s than it is today. And the reason why is because in the 50s and 60s, you knew who the people who didn't like you were.
We've had that conversation before.
Versus today, you have people who are doing
say
things,
one thing and do another,
and they're doing something completely opposite behind closed doors. At least you'd rather know the devil in front of you.
That's true. It's worse.
It's a very interesting situation, and but it goes on both sides too.
Exactly.
I don't think that it can be a situation where we say, "Oh, well, all white people are evil." Well, you can't do that. Right. Because truth be told to you, if it weren't for a few good white people, black people would still be in chains.
Right.
So didn't free ourselves. Trust me, we tried. It didn't work out. The only place that did do it would be Haiti, and then they got everything stolen from them from the French, and then they built the Eiffel Tower. So
we've always gone back from this with the it's always about the power, right? The power shift is the big part.
So think about it this way, and I always love bringing sports into play.
Yeah.
You and I are on the same football team.
It's a way to be relatable, right?
Yeah, it is. So you and I are on the same football team. Mm-hmm. I'm a 4-year vet. You're a 10-year vet. Mm-hmm. So I've been around you for 4 years. Our families play together. Our wives hang out. Everything's cool. You're my guy. Well, they just drafted somebody in your position, and you might be going home. Mm-hmm. So one or two things is going to happen. Either A, you and I can go during the off season and train our butt off and be like, all right, Matt, hey, this new kid, he's good. And he's probably going to end up taking your job in a couple of years, but let's make sure it's in a couple of years and not this year.
Right.
Or B, I can try to sabotage the situation and make sure that he doesn't take your job at least this year. The problem with the sabotage in the situation is, here we go to the vibes thing, is I put out so much negative energy in that will eventually come back to me as a human being.
Absolutely.
Rather than the outcast side of it, where we decide to step up and ride the wave and understand that, hey, everything that is in the present does come to an end, but it doesn't mean it's the end.
That's powerful right there.
And so when we do it that way, it changes things. And I think the largest part of racism that you see is people who have gotten away with doing things in a mediocre way at best are afraid to have to step up. They're afraid to have to be challenged. They're afraid to have to be better. And it's easier to sabotage than it is to do the work, at least what people think. Because when you try to sabotage things, you're doing just as much work, if not more. I mean, everybody who has kids knows the kid trying to tell the lie to the parents does a whole lot more work than just saying, hey, Dad, I messed up. All right?
Yeah.
It was dumb. It was stupid. They got to try to live the lie. They got to remember the lie. Hopefully they got a notebook where they wrote the lie down. And you know what I mean? And it turns into this whole thing. But if people start to really understand what we talked about before, that, there are peaks and valleys, and your peaks don't always have to be in the same limelight. I think that would change things. And I think that would be a big part of what would change the racial tension and racial fabric and what's going on in the American society is, number one, stop disassociating people. People who have been here or who were born here, who are 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 3rd, 4th, 2nd generation, they're just Americans. It's okay.
Right.
Black American, African American, whatever they're just Americans. And so I think if we stop using that disassociation, and I understand that it's been the political thing, it's just like, but why do you have to make it? If people say it's funny when I hear people say, oh, well, I don't see color. Get out of here.
See, I wanted your take on that.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. How'd you get dressed this morning if you don't see color?
Yeah. We've talked about it a little bit.
You seem to be matching quite well, my man. So I don't think that you don't. And it's the dumbest statement alive. Rather than saying, you know what, I do see color, but I don't allow it to affect me. I see color. I tell people that all the time. I see color. It doesn't. I see it. I'm not stupid. But in the same sentence, I don't have a preconceived notion about someone based on color.
Right.
I allow them to show me who they are. I mean, I've met black people that are terrible. I've met white people that are terrible. I've met black people that are great. I've met white people that are great. I've met everything in between. That's everything in between. I've met people that are crazy as all get out. And
so
it has nothing
this is
to
a
do
crazy statement, but you're saying just don't judge people, huh? based on the fact that you don't know them.
Have you ever heard of the show Pose?
I have not.
Okay, this is a weird one, but it's a show that was on FX that was based in the late 80s, early 90s about the minority transsexual movement in New York City.
Okay. Okay.
One of my favorite quotes comes from that show. And there's this guy, Pray Tell. And they were in this bar and whatever was going on. The transsexuals were apparently the bottom of the LBGT plus community at that point, and may very well be.
Right.
But the comment that was made was everybody has to have someone to look down on.
Wow. Ugh, that's tough.
A lot of people, that's the only way that they feel better. But the funniest part of that is everyone has to have someone to look down on is the basis of competition.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, how many times do you compete, whether it be whatever it is you're doing, basketball, track, golf, whatever, and a lot of people, their identity is being able to beat someone else. For me, my identity is score.
Right.
It has nothing to do with I don't care if I beat somebody. I mean,
There's
shot
a lot of
65
things,
the other day, and I could have shot 70 and won, and I still would have been upset because it wasn't 65.
Right.
Had nothing to do with, I beat this person. Like, I mean, I've done challenges with PGA Tour pros, and I've beaten the PGA Tour pros on skill challenges once in a blue moon, but that's not my claim to fame that I beat this PGA Tour pro. Because clearly, if I was that good, I'd be on the PGA Tour.
Manifest it.
But rather than just saying, you know what, hey, I hit a great shot and this person didn't hit a great shot, or you know what, I hit the shot of my life and that was awesome. I'm glad that I got to do it in front of this individual. That was cool. Now I know that it's there. Maybe I could find a way how I could do it more frequently.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? But it's my claim to fame isn't walking around, I beat such and such on the PGA Tour in a putt off. Look at their bank account, look at yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look at their wins column, look at yours, sir.
Yeah.
Are you on TV on Sundays? No, I'm not. Okay then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's the difference. So I think when you look at it from that stance, it's heavy. But it's because everybody is trying to find something about them that makes them feel good.
It's interesting, though, in reflection to that, if you consistently identify yourself by who you're better than, you'll never be happy.
No, because there'll always be somebody better than you.
If you identify yourself as like pushing yourself to be the best version of you every day, or bring people with you, like mentorship, that to me is more of a, Jay Shetty has a good quote about the head, the heart, and the hands. And you can have a good life with a good head, like clear vision, and a good heart, knowing how to make the tough decisions, but the right ones. He said, but really when you complete your life is when you actually give that knowledge back and pass it on. And that's the hands, like passing it on to somebody else.
That's funny. Yeah, my grandmother used to always say, just put your hand up there. All right, here.
Oh, wait, I thought I was getting the ring.
Hold that.
Okay.
Hold it.
Yep.
You're not holding it. It's just in your hand. Okay, cool. See, this is the good point. Now, how can I give you this?
If you're holding on to that, yeah.
What you got to do?
Oh, wait, what is that?
What you got to do?
I got to drop it.
No, you just got to let it go. Don't necessarily have to drop it. You can see, and that's the thing. It's just like in life.
True.
You can have people. You don't have to drop them. You don't have to disregard them. You don't have to throw them out like trash. You could just be like.
But if your plate's full, you can't accept anything new.
You can't, right? But you can say, thank you for what you did. Thank you for allowing me to hold you. Thank you for being a part of my life. I appreciate it. Hey, I appreciate you rather than something new came. Gotta go. I mean, honestly, think about it. How many times do people just...
It's hard conversations, right? It's hard to do that. Someone's going to be upset. You've got things. It's the same as, it's easier to lie and say, I didn't do it, than it is to say, I'm sorry I did it, and then to get that conversation that's coming.
It's like I tell people when people argue or when people fight, people get a divorce. You have to remember that at some point you love that person. You love that person enough to say yes. You love that person enough to have a child with them, start a family with them, build a house with them, whatever you all decide to do during that time period. Love them enough when you leave them like you did when you started with them.
Yeah.
No matter what they did.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
there's always a reason for whatever they did. Right or wrong. But there's always a reason
on both sides. And so if people start being more vulnerable, people start being more open, then things will change and relationships will be better. Like you should never have someone that you spent 5-6 years with and you hate them now.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Because you learned with that person, you grew as a person with that person, and maybe you grew enough to know that wasn't what you wanted to do, but you
But
still
it's
should
okay.
have enough to respect it.
Yeah. And here's the thing is all this like motivational, inspirational stuff. I love it, but at the same time, it can be received differently by different people, because you have the person that says, you know what, they're just not right for your life. And they're listening to this and they're saying, you know what, you are right. I've got to do what makes me happy. And that's getting rid of them. And it turns like a positive thing into a very negative
thing.
toxic thing.
Yeah.
And depending on how you receive that information,
It's
really depends on,
That's why the delivery is so important.
It is. Yeah. I don't think, and I'm terrible at it most of the time, articulation. I don't choose the right words, but my delivery and my intent is always there.
Oh, I hate the word intent. Jesus Christ. Here you go. This intent word. Intent is like God's excuse. It's just the worst thing ever.
My intentions?
Yeah, intent is terrible.
Well, what if my intentions were good?
Intent means I have to go based off of human nature and to believe that all people are good. I know you're a good person,
okay, yeah, okay.
but so many people
I get where you're going.
as an excuse rather than just saying, you know what?
You're saying it's
I wasn't thinking about you.
Intent. They use intent to get out of accountability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Versus just saying,
well, that wasn't my intent. I'm sorry.
No.
It's an easy defense mechanism.
It is. Rather
It's
than
true.
just saying, it's like when people, and I've had it so many times, people are like, man, you don't say you're sorry. I'm like, because I meant what I said.
Yeah.
Well, it hurt my feelings. And?
That's how you received it. Yeah.
Like, so you're not sorry? No, I ain't. With my kids all the time. It's terrible. It's honest. They're like, Dad, you're not sorry? No, actually, I'm not. Well, it hurt my feelings. Them your feelings, not mine. I don't care. You're an adult now. Both of them are adults. I can say whatever I want. Mm-hmm. I don't have to, pat you on the butt. You're beautiful. Okay, Daddy loves you. No, Daddy be like, hey, you suck.
Well, I mean, that's also part of, I'm not going to say it's wrong with a generation, but we're seeing a generation of people.
I'm saying it's wrong with the generation.
That's the difference. The intent.
I'm saying it's wrong. I know it's wrong. I've seen it wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough for them to get into the real world per se, right?
Well, here you go. Here's what you wanted to see.
Okay,
so
what's this?
That's what I got for Hidden Across Niagara.
Oh, I saw this.
Yeah, there you go.
Look
this
at
is
that.
My European ring.
You're the only person to ever do this, right?
Only person in the world that has ever done it. Only person that will ever do it.
Oh, yeah? You're not allowing anyone else to do it? You can control that?
It's totally illegal now. It's not me.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Canadian border.
Look at that thing. Me. That's pretty cool.
There's that ring. And that's actually in...
Okay, so I thought you had one ring. So what happened here? We've got 2015.
This is... No. Hold on. Yeah. 2015, this is European champion. This is back-to-back European championships. This is U.S. championship, and that's world championship.
Oh, yeah. Well, the world one's a little prettier, ain't it?
It's a little bigger, as it should be.
Dang, that thing's heavy. Can I put it on?
Yeah, if you want.
I mean, I guess you got bigger hands than I do. I'm going.
My hands are longer, but they're not. They're long and skinny.
Damn, that thing is cool. Oh, and this is is this the Volvic World Championship because you're sponsored by them?
No.
Or that was theirs?
That was, Volvic actually hosted. They sponsored the whole World Championship.
Dang. Just that 1 year?
Nope. They did it 16, 17, 18, 19. I think they did a 4 year.
Did they pick you up after that?
No, actually, Volvic was my first sponsor, man. I've been
good.
with Volvic since
I like to hear those stories, not the bandwagoners, the ones that believed in you before you did it.
Nah, man, 2011, 2012, 2011, yeah. So every win that I have has actually been under the Volvic umbrella.
Wow.
So,
okay. Who's sponsoring it now?
Great question. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
No, I think I made a decision yesterday. I don't think I'm going to World Championships this year. I just don't see the point.
Ooh, heard it here first, huh?
Yeah. I don't.
It's not live. Don't worry.
No, it doesn't matter, man.
Yeah.
I really don't think I want to go.
You're focused on more stroke play stuff, right?
Yeah. Not only that, I just don't feel like I want to show my support.
Okay.
I don't like what the organizations are doing with the sport. Maybe next year it'll be different. I've definitely given a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears and soul to the sport to try to grow the sport. And one thing about me is, if I'm not in agreement with something, I'm just not going to co-sign on it.
So. No. I love that about anyone that stands up for what they believe in. Yeah. Whether I agree with it or not, I have no idea what this is about, but I'll tell you this. Someone that doesn't use or goes with the flow for whatever the place says that they want to do to get to where they want to get to, if they stand true to their values, I have a lot more respect for them.
Yeah, they're just not looking out for the players like I think they should.
Okay.
And so I just, at this point, unless something changes significantly, and there are a few events left this year that I'll watch closely that'll make my decision, but it just doesn't make much sense. And maybe I'm just in a different part of the wave. That part of my wave may be over. It may cycle back next year. I don't know. But where I stand right now, I just don't.
It doesn't line up.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I mean, and this, like we just said, I mean, this whole thing has been, that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, there's so many different things that I'm doing right now. I'm working on doing corporate speaking engagements. Obviously,
I think you'd be great at that.
Playing.
Look at that voice. I mean, you just played around with it beforehand, doing like an intro to a radio show or something.
No, but there's so many different things, and trying to really get people to understand the journey of life. I don't think that I'm a single faceted person, right? I think there's so many different things that I can bring to the table.
Right.
And that's not an arrogance or cocky situation. I just really I think that I would be in a better service somewhere else right now.
Okay. There's nothing, like we said, I think being aware and being open to different experiences lets you enjoy life. Like you said earlier, if you're in survival mode, I've just got to get a job, you don't care where that job's at.
Right.
It's more along the lines of, what is my highest and best use, right? Yep. That's the commercial term in real estate that everyone uses, is what's the highest and best use for this piece of land right here. And it can be very different for the land across the street.
Yep, exactly.
And it can be very different for the land that has a huge slope on it, or has a little bit more room, or whatever.
That's all. I mean, the guys who are out there hidden, definitely would show my support to them. But for me, coming off the hand injury, I've actually gotten really, really good right now. I just think with everything that I'm building right now and going right back to long drive would more so set me back than set me forward, because I've worked very hard to not be looked at as just the long drive guy.
Right.
And so it's weird because I was never that. And if you look at anything I've ever put out there, it's always been more than that. But now people are starting to finally catch up to that. So
you got to work for it, though, right? It didn't just happen. Like, you've got years and years of just staying true to yourself and speaking your mind and building your platform and making your identity, really.
Yeah. Well, what you have to do is, it's like you said, don't judge a book by its cover, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes people see something and then that's all they ever want to see.
Yeah.
And so
that's why reflection's so powerful.
Be careful though. I had that conversation with a guy earlier this week, man. When you reflect, make sure you are in the proper mental status to be able to reflect, because it can literally be the most depressing thing in the world if you're not ready for it. So
that's what depression is, right? It's a past-based emotion that you think is, and then anxiety is a future-based emotion of your past repeating.
Yeah. And
so once you understand it, I feel like you're right. You have to be in the right mindset. A lot of people aren't.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's because it sounds funny when I say it this way, but you got to be real careful when you get butt naked. You got to be careful because you might not like what you see in the mirror when you get naked. It could really mess with you.
I thought I looked different.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's how. No, I mean, it'll get you. So you got to be really careful when you get naked with yourself. That's probably the best advice I could ever give anybody. Is I'm all for people taking deep dives. I really, really am. But when you take that deep dive, understand the things that you can control, understand the things that you can't control, understand the things that you're supposed to learn from, and then most importantly, understand the stuff you're just supposed to throw in the trash can.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff.
And understand it's all in the past.
Yeah.
That's where it's staying.
You can't relive it. So
nope.
Some of it,
you can't change it. That's why most people get stuck.
Well, the problem is you end up with two different types of people, right? There's some people who are stuck with regret and they get,
depressed,
and they find these different places in life. They go through all the 7 stages, really. And then you have on the complete opposite end, well, I don't care. It's in the past. Whoa!
Like, you can't ignore it.
Oh no!
You can't
zero
ignore
acknowledgement, zero regret, zero. They just it's like it's kind of like
can't change it now.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Lion King. It doesn't matter. It's in the past.
That's one of my favorite.
It still hurts.
Yeah. It smacks you in the face.
Rafiki hits you, and you're just like, yo, my man. So, and some people actually live their life that way. They don't care who they hurt. They don't care what they do to people because the moment is done. Well, it's in the past. Yeah, you knew it was going to be this way before. Yeah.
You don't learn from the past, though. You're going to repeat it.
Intent.
Yeah. There you go. He got to use it.
Yeah, I got to use it. Thank you.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, it's been cool, man. So thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, man. You want to go play some golf?
Yeah, we can do that.
Let's go do that.
I brought my favorite irons, so it's good.
Which ring are you going to wear when you're hitting, though?
I wear none of it. As you see, I didn't wear any of this stuff coming in.
That's right.
The only thing I didn't wear that I would normally wear when I do these is I normally wear my gold grill, but I didn't do it this time.
Whoa, why not?
I don't know. I just found it 2 seconds ago. It was in my bag. But normally, the reason why I do it is because
identity.
No.
Okay. What is it?
No, I don't know, man. Starting 15, 16, we started giving scholarships away in my neighborhood.
Okay.
I think we've given over $100,000 in scholarships.
That's
and
awesome.
The way how we give the scholarships, they're called second chance scholarships.
Okay.
And the point in those scholarships were, unfortunately, in my community, school is not taken very serious with a lot of people because we're talking about survival, right? And
right.
So when you're just trying to think about money, you're not thinking about the opportunities that are ahead of you or in front of you at that particular moment. And unfortunately, with the educational system, as things continue to go, it's a building block, right? So if you don't have a good foundation, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to learn it next year because you didn't learn what you were supposed to learn this year.
Right.
And we found a lot of kids who were on track not to graduate at the end of their freshman year. And I'm like, how in the world are you not on track after your freshman? You just got here. And we started this program where if kids turn their life around, they started out bad their freshman and sophomore year, but then they turn it around their junior year, and we're turning it around midway through their senior year. We offer scholarships for them. And the reason why I did that was because I had this belief that now it's May, but when we were in school, it was June. Every summer, you got kids that graduate all over Central Florida area. And you could either have pissed off people graduate or people with faith graduate. And I don't use the word hope because I believe hope has full of pixie dust and fairies. Faith is something that has a much deeper meaning and root behind it.
A belief, yeah.
Yeah. And so you can give these kids faith in themselves and faith that there are people out there who will give them an opportunity to better their life. And if you get people who are out in society that are pissed off, people that are pissed off don't care about themselves. And if they don't care about themselves, they damn sure don't care about you.
Oh, yeah.
So we started giving out these scholarships, and we gave out $5,000 scholarships a year. And it was to kids who had turned their life around. And I remember one kid, he started out with like a 1.4 GPA. It was bad. And then midway through his sophomore year, something clicked. Changed his life. I don't know.
Could have been anything, yeah.
Well, I ended up talking to him, and I found out what it was.
Okay.
And, he ended up in a little more stable environment, and unfortunately had a family member die and realized that whatever happened with his life was going to be because of him. He didn't have anybody else looking out for him. And so he started taking the school real, real serious. And I think I know his whole junior year, he had a 4.0. I want to say he was at like a 3.5, 3.75 the second semester of his sophomore year.
Wow.
And for me, I was like, yo, that means you had to go backwards and learn the stuff, relearn the stuff you didn't learn in order to
on top of what you need to learn in this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to the counselor, and my man had dreads. He had 6 gold at the bottom, 6 gold at the top. And they were telling him he need to cut his hair and need to take the gold teeth out of his mouth. And I had a grill long ago when I was running track because it was just a flashy thing to do.
Right.
And I didn't know who he was at the time. And I started talking to him. I was like, well, my man, what's your grades look like? And he started showing me his grades. I was like, man, don't cut your hair. Don't take the gold out your mouth. And I was like, who did your golds? And this was this was 16. It's like, who did your golds? And he told me who did it. I said, all right. He's like, why? I was like, I'm going to go get a set. He's like, what? I was like, think about it this way. If people that I'm around, if I'm the first person that they're introduced to that has a gold grill or gold teeth in their mouth versus what they may see on the news or in public perception, and I'm comfortable, I'm safe, they'll see me and they'll say, you know what? Okay, I won't be shocked or I won't have this stereotype when I see this person in real life. I'll just look at it like any other piece of jewelry that someone's wearing.
That's a cool story behind that, though. That's really neat. I mean, going back to what you said earlier and how your story unfolded and the fact that you're literally doing the exact same thing, extending that courtesy for giving people a opportunity that may not have the opportunity before to have that little bit of extra of a push just to get you through that rough patch, right? And I like what you said about entering the world in a negative environment. No one likes me. You're not going to take care of yourself or other people. So I love that part. But it's, again, we're going back to the bad event that happened turned into a learning experience for you to know what other people need to be able to make it through. And outcomes are going to be different, right? You can't say everyone's going to have a positive outcome that you give a scholarship to.
Right.
But there are going to be more opportunities for positive outcomes.
Yeah, and I mean, that young man is doing extremely, extremely well right now. And the difference is when people see, and I mean, I've done stuff with Golf Channel, and I remember the first time I had my grill, and they were like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And they were uncomfortable, but they wouldn't say why.
Yeah,
they wouldn't address it. And what ends up happening is it's like anything else. Like if a person comes to you with a nose piercing, you might be like this at first, and then you look past that. You get to see the individual. You know, in closing, the last, probably one of the most remarkable or the saddest / remarkable things I've ever seen was, I remember I was in New Zealand and I was at a mall, and their malls are a little bit different than they are here. And we're sitting there eating, and there was this guy who was homeless, and he's about 5 tables over. And 2 tables over from me, there was a guy sitting with a kid. And everybody who has little kids know little kids never finish their food.
Right.
Never. And I remember this little girl was eating her food. Her dad was there, and he was ready to go. And this was the first time I'd ever seen a parent do this, though. And it wasn't much. It was like maybe a nugget and a couple of fries or something like that. He wrapped the food up and took it with him. I saw all of the life out of the homeless guy fold. Like, it literally fell out of his existence. And I was actually there with Phyllis, the women's long drive champ. And I told her, I was like, hey, take this $50 and give it to this. I was like, actually, I told her, I said, give me $50. She's like, what do you want, 50? Just give me $50. And I took 50 from her, and I put 50. And I was like, go give it to this guy. Tell him to go find a place where he can sleep tonight. And then tell him to go get this for food. And then I said, then go buy him food. And it wasn't because I wasn't worried about if he'd spend the money on something else. It's literally, I know that look. I know when you're so hungry where you'll go into a trash can.
Relatability.
Food. Yeah. And she was like, how did you see it? And I saw it the moment I sat down. Because I'm sitting there and I'm watching how he's looking at the kid, and he's not. And it's not, he was.
And he's probably learned, like, through his struggle, that's where he gets his food from. Yeah.
And it wasn't like he was looking at the kid like a predator. He was literally looking at that food. Like, and I'm watching him. He never took his eyes off that table.
Right.
And I saw the guy wrap it up, and legitimately, I just literally saw the life, because it looked like he just didn't have anything else left in him at that point.
It's wild to me that all of our life experiences, again, if you can look back at them in reflection, in the right mindset, with the right intent.
Yes.
if you can look back at all that stuff, everything it just makes sense, right? When you look back at it, if you can truly accept it and you're in the right space, everything starts to make sense.
Yeah.
And if you can live your life and know that your storm that you're in, or your troubles, or your frustrations, or your stress, all that stuff is for a reason, it just makes it a little easier to accept. You don't have to ignore it.
No.
You definitely don't need to ignore it. You need to accept it.
Yeah, and it just makes you a different person. So I think, if people just take the time to really be open to their surroundings and open to the people around them.
Understand why they get there. There's always a reason they're in the situation they're in. They're learning something for the future. And so you can pass
Or
it
they're
on and
paying
be
for something
relatable.
from the past.
Or they're paying for something from the past,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's funny. I love when people say, "Oh, well, God won't put on me more than I can bear." That is the truth. God won't put on you more than you can bear, but you will damn sure put more on yourself. Than
Yeah.
than you can bear. He'll
That-
help you get out of it, but you won't be able to erase what's happened.
There's a lot of those memes where it's like, you know, why would this happen to me? Or you know, it's always like, well, I told you or I showed you, but you're not listening. You know, you're not open to it.
So no, that's cool.
All right, man, let's go hit some golf
All right,
balls.
let's go do it.
Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
And all my amazing water sponsors for my hydration: Blackwater, Waikea, and True Nepal.
Shout them out.
Thank you all so much.
Wait. Let's do this. Which one's your favorite?
Actually, they all do different things. So, like, this one is...
I knew you'd have a political answer for
No,
that.
it's just the truth.
It's the truth.
This is my recovery. This kind of is... Well, I definitely drink this at night. It helps break down my inflammation. So I don't get sore, swollen, anything like this. This is like a Gatorade substitute. It's full of electrolytes. And then this is just my normal...
Everyday water.
All-day water. So I probably go through 1 to 2 of these a day, definitely 2 of these and 2 of these. So I try to drink almost 200 ounces of water a day.
Yeah, that'll keep you in peak shape.
Yep.
Appreciate you coming on, buddy.
All right,
Let's go hit some balls.
Yep.